Hi everybody, this is Laura, City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. Today I have a layout that I made for a punched out Thursday to die for. To make this layout, I use the sketch from day 5 of Christy's Beautiful Life, 30 Days of Sketches, Series 9. The sketch was created by Snap Scrap Repeat, and it was made exclusively for Spoonful of Scraps. And even though March is over, I'm still using the Dotty About Flair prompts that went with each day of Christy's Beautiful Life, 30 Days of Sketches. Or I should say, I have been following them. On this particular sketch, I ended up making a detour from the Dotty About Flair prompt, which was white background. The collection that I'm using is a collection from my stash. That's a little bit of an older collection. It's called Bee-utiful You. I laugh sometimes when I'm watching YouTube videos and a scrapbooker says I'm using an older collection. It's from 6 months ago, and it makes me chuckle because I have collections that I use regularly that are 4, 5, 6, even 10 years old. So to me, a little bit of an older collection is probably very old to most people. I'm following this sketch in that I'm making the strips of paper narrower as you go from the bottom to the top. For some reason, I didn't immediately pick up on the fact that they got thinner as you went higher on the layout, so I had to go back and trim some of the papers down. I inked all of the strips of paper with some Distress Oxide and black soot, and I'm using a white piece of paper to mount everything on. That is 4.5 inches in width, and then it's of course 12 inches tall. I alternated between using a yellow pattern paper that looks almost like a solid and some of the pattern papers that were in the paper pads. And now I'm going around the outside of this whole large strip and adding a little bit more of the black soot just to make sure that the edges are well inked. There were a couple of white spots, so I filled those in. I wanted to add some borders to both sides of the strip of paper, so I used a Martha Stewart border punch, and I punched out a border from some white cardstock. And this is the photo that I'm going to be using. It's a photo of my older daughter and her best friend. This was several years ago when they were in college. I'm guessing they were getting ready to go out. They look like they're all dressed up to the nines, at least by college standards. And I was a little worried because I wasn't sure where else on the page I was going to use punches and dies. This is a very simple, almost minimalistic sketch, and my layout turns out to be very simple as well. So I was really happy when I found this die cut in a drawer as I was looking for something else. And this die cut turned out to be perfect. It's the exact right size for the photo. The photo is 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches, and then I put about a 1/4 inch mat, the 1/4 inch on each side of the photo, and just so happened that this was just the right size. So I thought it was meant to be, and I mounted my photo on it. I thought I'd try something different. I put the foam in between the photo and the die cut rather than putting the foam on the back of the die cut. I just wanted to try something a little bit different. I don't think it made a huge difference, but it is definitely a bit of a different look. And then I wanted to back the die cut with some pattern paper. I like the color purple, and there wasn't a ton of it on the rest of the page, so I thought I would bring this color in, since in the paper pad I found this purple paper that, just like the yellow, it's a pattern paper, but it looks like a solid. So then after I traced it and cut it out, I did a little bit of trimming, and now I'm attaching that down to the layout. I wanted to make sure that I didn't put it in the middle. I wanted to make it a little bit more toward the top. I think that would make it a little bit more interesting. There weren't too many titles, like ready-made titles, available with the embellishments that I had. There was this title that says Love Yourself, so I decided to use that as the title. I backed this chipboard piece on some white cardstock, and then I started trying to pick out which other embellishments I wanted to add to the page. I had a set of chipboard stickers, and then I also had the sheets of chipboard for this collection. I didn't have any of the other embellishments, so I was dipping into my stash to find some purple flowers. The yellow flowers, those are from the embellishments for this collection. But then I finally decided that there was enough yellow on the layout, and I didn't want to put these two different types of flowers right next to each other. I thought that they looked a little bit too different in style. So I'm using some Dollar Tree flowers. They're the Crafter Square pop-up stickers, and they have some really great stickers at Dollar Tree lately. So when I saw these, I wasn't 100% sure I should get them, but now, of course, I'm glad that I did. So I spend the next few minutes picking out the flowers and layering them on top of each other and deciding which flowers I wanted where. What I liked about this flower pack was there were a whole bunch of purple flowers, but they were all different shades of purple. Some of them looked a little bit closer to blue, and I thought that that went really well with this collection. So I didn't mention, because my camera didn't film when I switched the background from off-white to this blue color. I liked the off-white and it followed the Dotty About Flare prompt, but when I took this blue piece of paper and I put it behind that large strip, I just knew that I was going to go with the blue. It just made the whole layout come alive. So I failed on fulfilling the Dotty About Flare prompt, but I'm really glad that I gave it a try and saw what the blue paper would look like. I think it was definitely the better choice. I was fairly determined to make sure I met all the prompts for this 30 Days of Sketches, because last time there was 30 Days of Sketches, there were prompts and I kept not following them. Not on purpose, but I kept forgetting about them and then not including them. I am inking the edges of a number of leaves that I cut out. I used an Ellentina die, and that is by Tessler Crafts. They have a lot of great dies for sale. And I cut off all of the leaves that were already on these stickers. I didn't want to, again, mix the different styles of leaves. I don't see anything on the packaging that distinguishes one die from another, but if you're interested, you can check out the Tessler Craft website. Once I have all of the leaves in place, and I cut these leaves, by the way, from one of the pattern papers from the collection, I switched out one of the bees because it had a blue border and I wanted all three of the bees to have the same yellow border. And then I pulled out some die cuts that I had in my stash. A viewer asked how I store my die cuts. I don't have too many die cuts because I always seem to use up the majority of what I cut out. So if I do have any extras, I stick them on my desk in a little bowl. Then I saw on a YouTube video someone storing their dies in the pockets of an album, and I had this extra album, so I thought I would give it a try and would put any die cuts I don't use in one of the sleeves. And then recently I cut out a whole bunch of these die cuts, and I didn't end up using them on the page I intended to, so they became the first die cuts stored in this way. Although having said that, I am pretty sure I have a zipped pouch that has a whole bunch of pine branches in it. So I'll have to look for that and put that in the album as well. I wanted to add some bling to the layout. I use a lot of pearls, and I use pearls on this layout as well, but I thought that I would switch things up just a little bit, get wild and crazy, and use some jewels instead of using all pearls. I had sheets with two different colors of purple jewels, and I like when they're available in a whole bunch of different sizes in the same package. So I added those to some of the flowers. I added them to either end of the banner that has the title on it. And then, of course, I was thinking I have to add some pearls, so I wanted to draw a little bit more attention to the photo, and I have lots of the same size pearls, so I added them all around that scalloped border. Then I use my gel glue and I go to each cluster on the page and I glue everything down, and I make sure that everything is positioned just the way that I want it. As I was gluing down the stickers, I was thinking that some of them could use some foam underneath them because I have them layered, and some of them are not super thick, but they're a little bit thick. They do have some foam in them already, so I thought I would add a little bit of extra foam to some of them to keep them even and so they'll sit correctly on the page. And even once I have the glue on the back of some of my embellishments, I will still sometimes rearrange things. Sometimes it's just the slightest change in the angle or the placement of something that can make a whole cluster look much better. So I'm always looking to see how I can arrange things and improve the look of the clusters. I really love this photo. I was looking forward to scrapbooking this one. I have some photos that they're not bad photos, but I'm not really looking forward to scrapbooking them. And I was looking at my albums the other day and I realized I am going through them and picking out my favorite photos, scrapbooking those, and then leaving others for later. And I am going to make a concerted effort coming up to complete albums, whether they're my favorite photos or not my favorite photos, and try to get albums completed because I have a lot of half-finished albums. That's just a little aside. And now I'm adding a few leaves to those flowers that are around the frame. They just look like they needed a little bit of green near them. I'm stamping the date on the bottom. And now I'm going to add some white splatters to mainly the clusters on the layout. Sometimes if a big drop falls on the layout or if I don't like where the splatters land, I might wipe them away a little bit, but for the most part, I want the splatters to look random. So I was a little worried at the beginning that I wasn't going to have enough things on my layout made out of my punches and dies, but it turned out that I do have quite a few things on there from punches and dies, and then I was thinking that the layout looked a little incomplete, so I punched out another white border strip for each side of the layout, and now I'm using my ATG adhesive and I'm attaching those down, and I just think that gives the layout a finished look. I'm not sure if it was necessary, but to my eye, that made it look just a little bit more finished. And that completes this layout. Here are some close-ups. This was kind of a quick, simple layout, but I feel that that's something that's easy to do when you're using a sketch. Please take a look in the description box. You'll find links to the channels of Sonia, Dorothy, Kathy, and Ronnie Sue. They will also have lots of inspiration for you on their channels. I hope that you enjoyed this video, everybody, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.